Good evening, everybody. Welcome to yet another live chat session organized by the Nebraska 9 Club. Today, we have a very special guest. It's basically Ms. Gauri Nalgorkar. She's a Great Dane breeder, Great Dane specialist. She's been a Great Dane breeder from 1989, 30 plus years. Has the prefix Daniel Kennels. She's won a lot of awards, noted being the Reserve Dog of the Year with her dog Starman in 2017. She's bred close to 85 champions. That's something that is really it's a big task to breed 85 Great Danes and make them a champion is something that is really huge. Started judging career as a Dane specialist, and now she's an all breeds judge as well. And she's also the part of the KCI committee. Thank you, Gauri. Thank you for joining us today evening and spending your valuable time with us in talking about the breed that you love. Yeah, from the time that I remember, I have seen you only with Danes and nothing else. So thank you so much for coming on board today.
My pleasure.
Okay, Gauri, jumping into the questions or people really want to know what Great Danes are all about and everything. What was Danes? What was the purpose of Danes? Like each dog had a purpose in terms of which they were bred for, like Dobermans and German Shepherds and stuff like that. So, what was the purpose for a Great Dane to be bred in those days?
See, basically, Great Danes were bred as large game hunters initially.
Okay.
And if you see, if you go back to ancient times, ancient Egyptians or the ancient Assyrians, the Greeks, the Romans during those times, you do come across, carvings, coins, tablets, on which you have carvings of these, an ancient dog that I would call the precursor or the ancestor of the modern day Great Dane. So from those times, they were used as large animal hunters. Later on, towards the 19th century, 18th, 19th century, a lot of royalty, European royalty kept these dogs, and they used them as boar hunters.
Okay.
So they for boar hunting, and royalty, noblemen, German royalty, Danish royalty, they kept these dogs, and they were also used as guardians of their property.
So that is why they called the Apollo of dogs.
They are called actually the Apollo of dogs for a different reason, because as you see, the Apollo, the Greek god, they have a unique combination of strength, substance, size, and elegance. So that's a very unique combination. As they do have the size, they do have the substance, but they also have to have the elegance, which is very unique to this breed. That's the reason they're called the Apollo of dogs. And when you look at a dog, when you look at a Great Dane, you should see a noble statue. It is a magnificent dog, and that's why it's referred to as the Apollo of dogs.
Oh, okay. So is in relevance to the same question, since being that big of a dog in size, do they have any? What are the exclusive and unique features of these dogs?
Well, this is the unique feature that it is the Apollo of dogs. So this unique combination of size, substance, strength, and elegance in the same dog. They are courageous dogs at the same time. They are gentle giants. They have this unique and distinguishing headpiece. The head of the Dane is like that of no other breed. So that is the hallmark of the dog. And the overall, the nobility and the magnificence that this dog exudes, I think makes it very unique.
Oh, nice. This question, the next question that I'm going to ask you is something that a lot of people have asked me in terms of a big dog, and I think they would have asked you this question. I have a lot of friends who are actually fascinated by the breed as such. Great Danes are a breed where people really love and people really like. Are these dogs? Big dogs generally need a bigger space. Is what I feel. So, how good are dogs in terms of keeping them in an apartment and with a family with a close space?
Yeah, this is a question that a lot of people ask, and from my experience, the main thing is that Danes need people around. They are very people-friendly dogs, And if even if you are in an apartment and you want to have a Dane, as long as you can give the time, you can devote the time to this breed, and have the time to take the dog out and have make sure the dog gets adequate exercise, optimum exercise as per the dog's age. I think it's perfectly all right because they do very well with families. They do very well around people. So even if you're in an apartment and you do it the right way, it should definitely not be a problem.
Sure.
Also it does help if you have a yard and a larger area, definitely. But if you're willing to go that extra mile and take the time off and
Take time
uh,
off.
spend
But
time,
with a dog as big as that, and most of the apartments have a very smooth surface for them to walk on.
yes, yes.
So what I mean, there must be definitely a lot of
Certain thing
uh,
there. I'm talking
posture
specifically.
and leg related issues.
Exactly. I'm talking specifically now if you talk of Indian apartments and Indian homes. If you have smooth flooring, tiles or marble, make sure you don't let your Dane puppy run on that sort of flooring. So as long as you take care of that and the running part of it, you take the dog outside and to a garden or to a play area, and that's done on soft ground. I think that should be no problem at all keeping a dog in an apartment.
So a Dane is not a dog that cannot be kept in an apartment. It's just that we people who have the dog need to take care of it a bit
Take a
more.
little extra effort. Yes, take a
Yeah,
little
a bit
extra
more
effort.
than what other people have done in
Yes,
terms of where they have a runaround area or something like that.
yes,
So,
yes.
and how good are they with kids or their temperaments with?
They're very good. They're very good. They're like the gentle giants. They're very good with children. The temperament is very steady. And I would add for a well-bred and well-reared Dane. Uh, the temperaments are very good, very stable. And in fact, we've had Danes in my house, who've been around my brother's kids since they were very small, and absolutely no problem. They were very protective of the kids, and no problem at all, absolutely.
Right. We will take a question from one of our viewers. Mr. Radhakrishnan has basically asked, would it be fair to say that Great Danes have evolved in time more of mild-tempered dogs, like as you said, they are the gentle giants. However, how was this achieved from breeding perspective?
See, the aggression initially, as I said, they were used for large animal hunting and used as boar hunters. So the aggression was bred out of these dogs. As people bred from them, the aggression was bred out, and over the years, the Danes that we see today in the ring and in our homes are very very sound as far as temperament is concerned. So over the years, the aggression has been bred out.
So they are the mildness or the gentle. It's basically over a period of so many years of how the characteristics of the
So
dog have
many
been.
yes, that aggression has been put out. And but I would like to add at the same time because I live on my property with my Danes. So at the same time, I they are gentle dogs, but they would definitely not let a stranger
Yeah, yes,
into the house.
they look scary. A big Dane
They can
generally
look
looks
intimidating, but
intimidating.
they
Yeah.
will definitely not let a stranger into the property for sure.
That is. Uh, Moving on to the other questions, Gauri. How much toll does an upbringing of this thing cause in terms of nutrition, living conditions, exercises? What is an ideal diet that you would say that a day needs? Is there any specific supplements? Because a dog that size needs a lot of supplements, the bone strength that you see in the dogs right now. I mean, do they need anything specific than what is given to other dogs in general?
Yeah, see, it's a giant breed, and it's a very fast-growing breed. In their growth period, they have a very period where they grow really fast. So you have to take a little extra care during that period. That in terms of nutrition, the nutrition has to be right. The calcium and phosphorus ratios have to be right. So what I would advise people is that unless and until you know how to formulate your own diet, and if you've really studied that, you've studied canine nutrition and you know what you're doing, it's safest to go in for a super premium dry dog food, which is a balanced diet and which is appropriate for a Great Dane. Now when I say appropriate for a Great Dane, what I mean is during the growth phase, keep the Dane on a moderate protein and a moderate fat level diet. That is because it's already a fast growing breed, so you want a steady growth curve. You don't want spikes. You don't want spurts in the growth period. So keep the dog on a moderate protein and moderate fat level food. That is very important. That's I have noticed over the years that's where people go a little wrong in India as far as feeding their data is concerned. So if you take care, and if you're feeding a super premium dog food, please do not supplement with calcium because
Okay.
excess can cause a lot of harm. Please do not supplement with multivitamins. What you can supplement and should is supplements for the joints, which will help the joints of a growing puppy.
Okay.
Maybe a skin supplement with omega 3 and omega 6. And MSM is also something that I add a vitamin C. So apart from that, you don't need to supplement with calcium at all. I mean, that would only lead to a lot of problems during the growth phase.
So what would you say for what would be the balanced diet for a dog and whelp or a puppy that is a dog and whelp basically?
Which in well,
Yeah, bitch and whelp. Sorry.
in your gestation period or after she's whelped?
In both,
Both.
as in both.
Okay. I would keep her on a super premium dog food, even before she's, throughout the stage where she's, before she's bred. So keep the same food till of a moderate protein and a moderate fat level till she's into 5 weeks of her gestation. After that, when you have done your sonography and when you realize that yes, she is carrying, she has puppies, that's when you can switch over to a higher fat and higher protein content food. And that is because she's already carrying, she has her babies. Um, uh, a higher fat, she needs a high calorie food and she needs more quantities of it. She needs more energy at this stage. So if you feed a calorie food, you're going to need more quantities.
Okay.
So more quantities, you're going to be feeding more, and already she's carrying her baby, so that would be very uncomfortable for her to eat large quantities of food. So I would advise that you give her a high calorie food, which is higher in fat and protein, and more frequently. So she doesn't feel uncomfortable, and you can go on increasing the quantity. Towards the end of the gestation period, you can even feed ad libitum as long as she's digesting the food as much as she wants because she needs to feed the puppy.
No. No. So, I mean, you were talking about super premium food. So, let us say that a person who is not able to afford a super premium food. So, what is the kind of home remedy that would be ideal for a growing puppy or a growing dog or something like that?
See,
How
a
do you
home
balance the calcium and protein in a home
Exactly.
remedy?
That's the main problem there. When you talk of a homemade diet, as you have to know exactly the nutrient content of your diet. You need to know exactly how much protein, how much fat, how much carbohydrates, the multivitamins and minerals. And unless you're, a canine nutrition expert, it's very difficult to calculate all these things.
Okay.
So the safest thing would be to go in for a dry dog food, which is a super premium dog food. If you do know what you're doing and you're able to formulate your own diet, and
Okay.
then you know what the calorie content of your diet is and what the nutritional value of your diet is, then you know what to supplement with and you know exactly what your diet contains. So in that case, yes, you can formulate your own diet, but I think in most cases it would be safer to go in for a super premium dry dog food.
What about exercise for a day? How much do you actually? What is the right amount of exercise that you basically give a dog like a
See,
day?
the exercise differs and depends on the age of the dog.
Okay.
Different exercises for different ages. I would exercise maybe a 4-month-old puppy differently from a 6-month-old puppy, and a 10-month-old puppy differently, an adult differently. So depending on the stage of growth that they are in, the exercise would vary. Again, I would like to stress that although the Dane looks like a big dog, that doesn't mean that give him or her too much exercise. That could cause a lot of problems because their bones are still delicate. They're growing. The growth period is a long one.
No.
So the only exercise in the initial puppy stages is just a free run, free play. Let them run around as much as they would like, no stress and no forced exercise of any kind. As they grow older, you can start giving them walks, and only I would say when they're fully mature and their growth plates have closed is when you start to work them out if you're, at a later stage. So some Danes, well, I would say after 2 years of age also, till then it's just light exercise, and I would just let them grow and settle down, and then start the heavier exercise much later.
Okay. Going on, so what are Great Danes sensitive, and will they turn timid and increase not place in the necessary socialization care? So, I mean, is this a characteristic feature that you see with Great Danes as such? Them going timid or being shy?
See, all these are, there could be a genetic predisposition as well as an environmental factor. I mean, if you, no matter how well bred your dog is, if you don't socialize your dog, it's going to be a timid dog. So you don't want that situation to arise right from the puppy stage. You have to socialize the dog. You have to take him out. You have to get him used to the environment and different conditions. So unfortunately, here we don't have classes like that, socializing classes like that. But
No.
we do have. I mean, the moment you step out of your house, you have a lot of people and traffic and cars and everything around you. So I think it's easier in India to socialize games. So once if you do that, you spend a little time on your puppy and try and do that every day. That should not be a problem at all.
Right. Are bigger dogs in the sense? My next question is basically like, are bigger dogs nimble? Are they used for agility, or I mean, will a Great Dane be used for something like an agility trial? Are they nimble in their feet?
Certainly, Danes can do agility. Danes can do obedience. In fact, in the US, they have these fast cat competitions where a Dane owned by my friend was the number one Dane in fast cat. She clocked I think 33 miles per hour. She was that
Oh,
fast. She was the number one. Yeah, so they are a versatile breed. They can do different things. So definitely
they
agility and
are
obedience.
agility and obedience is something that a dog that size is possible to train. How
It
difficult? I mean, what is the time period that you take to train a dog like a day to and when do you start? Do you start at a very early age, or
Are you talking about the obedience part of it, or
obedience agility part of it? Agility part of it. Since you said you take.
well, you can start young, as long as you don't stress the dog out too much. See, the important thing to keep in mind here is that the bones are still, delicate. So
No.
even though they look big, you have to make sure you don't stress them out too much. So as much as they can take, and a little at a time is what you should be doing. So that is important.
How difficult is it to rear a Dane puppy? Because I see a lot of comments and questions coming in for puppies and puppy-related questions. So we
Yeah.
address this, and I can put up the number of questions that are already there about puppies that people are asking. How
So,
difficult is it to rear? Yeah, how difficult is it to rear a puppy?
well, this is a very important question because I think a lot of people want to know that, and I would say that if you know what you're doing, it's easy. If you don't know what you're doing, it can be very, very difficult, and it can be a difficult, very daunting task. Um, I would say, to say to people, keep it simple. The best thing you could do is have a mentor. Have somebody that's been in the breed for a long time, who's willing to guide you and who's willing to answer your questions. That makes life a lot easier than
Yeah, I
it
know.
would be. And you already have so many years of knowledge that they have acquired over the years, have passed on to you. So you have virtually have that knowledge firsthand. I mean, ready made. So that's the first thing that you should do. Seek a mentor, and if you do, that's a very good thing. You'll be fortunate to have all that experience given to you. Now, rearing part of it is, yes, it's a difficult thing. Again, like I said, nutrition plays a very important role. The exercise that you give your Dane puppy plays a very important role.
Yeah.
Age appropriate exercise is what is necessary here. age appropriate exercise, and also the environmental factors. Like we talked about socializing the puppy. That's
Yes.
very important. And what kind of care and what kind of love and the support system for the puppy that you can offer. So as far as nutrition is concerned, like I spoke about before, it's safest to go in for a super premium food when the puppy is growing. The protein and fat percentages should be moderate.
Okay.
That will ensure that the growth curve is a more balanced growth curve with no growth spurts. That could lead to a lot of problems that Danes can be predisposed to, like HOD or OCD or panocytitis. You don't want all that. So safest to go in for a moderate protein and fat level dog food. And again, no supplementation with calcium, no supplementation with any extra multivitamins. You can something for joint.
A balanced super premium diet is more than enough for a puppy to grow.
That is absolutely more than enough, but select the food properly. Like I said, moderate protein and fat levels. If you give a food which is very high in calories and very high in protein and fat, that could again result in an uneven growth during this, especially during the 3 to 7 month phase, when the Danes are at the growth is at the fastest at that stage. So that's where you really want to be extra careful. And again, not too much exercise, but only as much as the Dane will. You just free playtime. That's it, and maybe just small walks. That's more than enough for a growing Dane puppy.
So this is basically the crux of how to rear a Dane puppy. We have a question from Mr. Tinker. I think I just flashed on before, like little while long.
Okay.
I was told that it's very careful with pups growing as they grow quickly. Okay. What precautions should she take, or if we take in terms of diet? So I think you just answered the question also.
I think we just answered that question, Tinker. Now you're talking of Dane puppies or lab puppies, but I think it should apply to definitely to all giant breed puppies, and even to large breed puppies, I would say, because labs have this thing about putting on weight. They tend to put on weight very easily, and they can eat a lot. So restricting the quantities, and then choosing the diet wisely, choosing the formula that you want to feed very wisely. So take a look at the fat percent, the protein percent of what you're feeding, and also the calcium phosphorus ratio is very important. So like I said, unless you know what you're doing as far as nutrition is concerned, safest to go in for a super premium dog food. Half your troubles are taken away.
Okay, let's go on to a very a common question that I have myself that I have been asking for a very long time. The colors. What are the various colors that are there in this breed? I mean, the FCI, KCI follows a different type of color pattern. The AKC has, I think, a different set of color bifurcations of the breed.
So now the Merle has been introduced. So we have the fawn, the brindle, the harlequin, the black and the blue, and then the mantle or the Boston, which is like white with a black blanket with white muzzle, and a white blaze is optional. So you could have a white blaze, a white neck, white chest, white socks on the front feet and the back feet, and a white tipped black tail. So that's basically a mantle. And then you have the Merle, which was earlier not an accepted color, but now has been accepted recently. So you could have the regular Merle, which is a pale gray or a dark gray base with broken black patches. And you can also have the mantle Merle, which with the mantle pattern that I just described. But instead of the black, you have the Merle color. So basically, these are the colors that you have. Different countries, like I said, have different acceptance of colors. So the FCI also allows the Merle, also allows the Boston.
So have they been added recently, or have they been there for some?
Merle has been added, I think, into last year, 2019.
So since it's been accepted by the FCI, the Kennel Club also will start accepting.
It says Brautiger. So yes, so they are judged along with the Harlequins. So basically, they are in that category. Like the FCI judges the fawns and the brindles, then the Harlequins and the blacks, and then the blues separately. So they have these three categories that they judge the Danes in. And what is actually not, which is a DQ actually, is the Merlequin. Now the Merlequin is a white base with only merle patches. That's a DQ, and of course the albino.
Yeah, the full white.
Yes.
Okay. So the only disqualification is basically the Merlin. You just said Merlin.
Yes, the Merlequin and the albino.
Merlequin. So is there a clean way to distinguish them in terms of? I mean, like. In terms of like how you see a merle and a Merlequin, I mean, is there any?
The Merlequin is like with a white background with merle patches, so it's very easy.
It's fully white with merle patches.
Merle patches, yes, only merle patches. Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to throw a question that Mr. Sudarshan has asked. In terms of in judging, since we are talking about FCI and the girls, are crop dogs at a disadvantage when showing under FCI judges? Yeah, this is something that an elegant dog is always the dog which is the ears like standing up, and now you have all these rules coming in where you can't crop. And what is your take on this?
See, basically, I think to a good judge shouldn't matter at all whether the dog is cropped or not cropped. It does look more elegant with the crop, but if the dog has a lovely ear set and correct ear placement, I think it should not matter at all. So I think no, it definitely should not matter. Although the look is different, but what is I would say more important is the ear placement and the ear set.
Moving on to another question in lines to judging and this thing, how good, I mean, what dentition, a Great Dane, you are a breeder or a specialty judge, how much weightage would you give for a complete dentition, vice versa, how much would you penalize for a missing tooth? Because there's some person who has asked a very complicated question in regards to this as well. I think you'll be able to address it in an offline comment, but how, in terms of dentition, what is your take on this?
Yeah, this is a question which comes up a lot, and if you refer to the standards, the AKC standard prefers full dentition.
Okay.
The FCI standard says full dentition, but with the allowance for 2 PMI in the lower jaw. So PM1 in the lower jaw. So I would say, if you have an outstanding dog, which is going to be your best of breed, clearly, head and shoulders above the other dogs in the competition that day, and he or she had one missing tooth. I mean, that's not going to be a deal breaker. I mean, I don't think we should throw the baby out with the bathwater. So I think I really don't think that should be a deal breaker, and definitely that dog should go up over the others. Well, in case of two dogs being of the same quality, in that case, definitely the one with full dentition should.
Full dentition always gets the.
If they are of the same quality.
It's the edge basically is where you have there's no missing tooth. That's simple as that. Yeah. Moving on to a very important question that I think a lot of breeders in general would ask is like, at what age would you recommend breeding a Dane, male / female? Till what age would you breed them as well? Like, I mean, there are a lot of people who breed them till they are like really old. So, I mean, what is the right thing, the do's and don'ts of this?
See, if you talk about a female, since Danes have a very long, large span in which they're still growing, I would definitely not breed a female before she's 2.5 years of age. Because before that, she is growing herself. So to put her through the stress of a pregnancy, the gestation and the lactation and the whelping part of it, I do not recommend that. So at least 2.5 years of age before you breed your Dane female. And I would certainly not breed a Dane female above the age of 6 years old.
Okay. So 6 years is the maximum that you go up to.
Yes, because they have a very short, healthy span.
Okay.
After 6 to 7, the Dane starts aging rapidly. It also depends on the bloodlines, and but on the whole, I would not put her through that stress after she's 6 years old. And me personally, if you ask me, I would only breed her two times or maybe a third time, if at all, in this span. If I talk of a male dog, a stud dog, I would probably start him at around, say, 13, 14, 15 months of age, maybe one breeding there. and then wait till he's mature to give him, let him out at stud more. So in India now we talk of natural breedings, of course, because we still haven't started AI.
Yeah.
Although the SA committee has approved that, so we should very shortly see that being done here. But so far, at least, I mean, we have to talk about natural breedings. So once he's fully mature, yes, and for a Dane male, as long as he's healthy and fit, I think he can be bred. So it's only
Okay.
with the female that you have to be a little more careful. But Dane male also needs to be healthy enough to be bred naturally.
There's one gentleman who's asked about inbreeding and line breeding, one line of these. I mean, since we are talking about breeding of dogs, what is your take on this? My take is basically you don't do it. Inbreed, line breeding. I mean, yeah, you have a lot of complications to it, I suppose.
Yes, again, like canine nutrition, this is something that you really need to know what you're doing. I would say for novice breeders, please stay away from inbreeding because it's a double-edged sword. You
Yeah.
could bring in a lot of negative traits as well as positives also are reinforced, but at the same time you could introduce a lot of negative traits into your bloodline, which then could be very difficult to eliminate at a later point. Also,
Okay.
a lot of health issues also can crop up in your puppies. So I would say for novice breeders, please do not get into inbreeding. Line breeding definitely to establish, your style. Um, but you also need to know which dog you're line breeding to. I mean, a lot of
Yeah.
people just say that we've just line bred, but that doesn't make sense unless and until you know which dog you have line bred to and why. So in this case, it's very important to study the pedigrees of the animals that you're breeding. You have to know all the generations as far back as possible. That's where, again, if you have not seen those dogs yourself, is where your mentor comes in and can help you really with, what traits those dogs had and what they were phenotypically and genotypically also in case they have used them before. So that's where you get a lot of information, and then you decide whether to go in for that line breeding also. So it just depends on what traits I want to incorporate in my breeding, what traits I want to eliminate, and what I want to enhance. So it would depend. It would differ from breeding to breeding, and it would very much depend on the dog that I'm line breeding to. That's very important.
So you should basically know the lines of the
Absolutely,
dog.
absolutely. That
For
that
you to
is
even try something with line breeding, yeah, you have to have the vast knowledge of the lines, where they
yes,
come from, where the siren dam is from, and their siren
absolutely.
dam, so that you don't mess it up somewhere down the line or something.
Exactly, exactly. And so then after that, you're just going to end up backtracking, and you're going to end up with puppies that are not what you
What you
wanted.
wanted. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. You
So
would have thought about something in your head which really looked brilliant, but the end result would be something totally different.
it looked good on paper, but
Yeah.
then you haven't seen those dogs or didn't know what they were passing on to their offspring. So you just did that blindly, thinking it could be a good idea. But then when actually the puppies are born, and after a while you realize that no, I mean, this is not what I wanted.
We have we're two similar. I mean, we have a question from two people, but very similar. I have seen this. I just put it up. Mr. Rakesh has asked, like in the sense of that the white patch that you see on the Dane's muscles, and Mr. Rushi is also asked the same question, very similar to that. I mean, I want to know why the muscles of a Great Dane turns white hair in a young age, around 2 years. It's a genetic climate reading. I had a Dane. He's had a Dane which was 14 years old, almost a black muscle. So what? Even I have seen this with a lot of Danes. Like they are at a very young age, their lovely
They
black
grow.
muscle has. Yeah.
Yes, some bloodlines gray faster. I've had dogs that have started graying at around 1.5, 2 years of age, and some dogs that have retained those black masks for a little longer time. So it depends on the bloodlines. It depends on the nutrition. So these are the factors that could affect that. So
So
yes,
lines is the lines of the breed you're talking about, or the nutrition. What is the major factor? What would you say is the major factor because of this? Is it
I would say both. I would say both, but yes, predominantly the lines, the bloodlines. Some lines
predominantly the bloodlines?
gray a little bit earlier, and
Okay,
some lines do have that black mask for a little longer.
little long. In relevance to the dog show related questions, we have some that have been thrown up. Mr. Sharat Sharma has basically asked one as well. He's asked about top lines. I'll just throw it up on this thing. Hi Gauri, would you a word? Okay, a little word on Dane top lines. So, and there are other couple of other questions on on dog show related to things. How do you address such a question like that?
Top lines?
Yeah.
A level top line, the withers and then a level back, and then slowly, imperceptibly blending into the croup with a high set tail. Uh, don't want a flat croup, you don't want a low set croup, but the back should definitely be level, and the dog should be able to maintain that top line on the move as well. So when you see a dog stacked, yes, definitely you want a level top line. When the dog is moving, when the dog is in motion, you want to see the dog maintain that line with no sag, no roach.
Okay.
So that's what you're looking for, basically.
A level top line is what basically is ideal for. I mean, yeah, that's what the breed standard also calls for. I suppose a level top line. Fit the function, or do you feel that Danes today can do the job of which they were bred for? And how tough and resilient are Danes compared to the other breeds?
You see, I mean, they were bred
You
for
basically said the dogs are bred for big game. I mean, do
big
they know?
hunting. So when are we going to see big game hunting in this day?
Yeah.
Or even boar hunting for that matter? You be put behind bars in no time if you go and boar hunt. But at the same time, when you look at a dog, you have a Dane with the right conformation, doesn't have fluttering lips. You have a nice tight dog. You can see the conformation, and you can perceive, or you can imagine that yes, this dog is fit for the function that it was bred for. I mean, that's all you can do. I mean, you definitely cannot have a practical in that aspect and go on a hunt. But there are Danes which definitely would fulfill that purpose.
What was your take? Because there are a couple of questions that is asked by our by our viewers on European and American type of games. I mean, what is your preference as a judge, and what is the general differences between the European and the American type of dog?
See, I prefer the American. I would say the type is one. The type for any breed is one. There are different styles that have evolved in different countries or different continents based on the influential bloodlines in those countries, based on the interpretation of the standards, and based on what was available there and the preferences of the breeders, of the top breeders. So you have different styles evolving, but the type essentially is the same. So when you look at the breed standards of different countries, um, you may find variations in the terms used at times, but basically, if you see, they describe the same dog.
Okay.
If you apply, for example, the FCI standard, and you have to create a dog based on that standard, and at the same time you look at the AKC standard and the kind of dog that describes, there would not be much variation in that. So when people talk of European Danes, now I would like to make a distinction here. Are you referring to the dogs which are called the Eurodane with the heavy muzzles?
Yeah, I think that is what, because there's a distinct in Doberman. I'm talking.
With those loose eyelids, and no, I mean that does not fit to the definition of the FCI standard at all.
Okay.
Then, I mean, you have digressed from the essence of the standard. So a lot of Danes in Europe are very beautiful dogs, and they absolutely are the embodiment of the dog described in the FCI standard. But these have digressed to such an extent that they look more like mastiffs. And remember, the key word there is elegance. So all these standards talk of elegance. You want strength and substance and size with elegance. So when you miss out on such a vital element, that is not the dog that the standard is describing. So yes, when you talk of Euro, you have to make that distinction. whether you're talking of that mastiff-like clumsy dog, or you want a dog that is a unit, which is what this.
No, I mean, okay, in Dobermans, if you see, there's a distinct differentiation between the American type of Dobermans that are shown and the European type of Dobermans that are shown, right?
Yes.
So, do even Danes have something very similar to that? Do they have in terms of
Yes, I mean, like I said,
not being the Euro dog, not being the Euro dog, but in terms of
yes, there are slight variations, definitely in style, but basically, yes, you would say this is a Dane, which is described in the standard and doesn't digress from the standard, from the animal that the standard describes. As long as it doesn't veer towards a mastiff-like look. It's see the standard, if it's within the parameters of the standard. Now, are the parameters elastic? Is it is the framework elastic? No, that is the blueprint. So as long as you are within that blueprint, you have certain variations of style, that is acceptable. And there are bound to be, because you have so many different bloodlines, different parts of the world, different interpretations of the standard. As long as the keywords are not missed out.
Missed out, okay. This is a question that comes up with, I think, almost every breed as such. What are the kind of pet parent is Great Dane suitable for?
See, what I would look for personally is a permanent loving home for a Dane who can commit to having that pet as part of the family for the rest of the pet's life. That is of prime importance to me personally as a breeder. If they show the dog, fine, that's a bonus. I mean, I'll be happy if they show the dog. I've had several puppies over the years which were beautiful, but they were placed in pet homes where they were never shown. And I'm happy because they lived happy lives and the families enjoyed them and they were part of the family. They grew up as part of the family. There are certain red flags now. If I talk of, especially in India, I get a lot of questions which I think are red flags, and then my part of the conversation is very abruptly there. So when people first ask for the price, without asking for more than that, is a strict no. So my conversation ends there. Strangely, I've had people asking me, saying rather that they want a puppy for this show season.
Okay, a ready-made dog.
This show season.
Literally ready. Literally ready-made dog.
Yeah. So the puppy is not for a specific show season, or this puppy is not a Christmas gift, or a puppy is not a Diwali gift. It's a lifetime commitment for the life of the puppy. So that's another red flag. And then a very, very strange request that some people have is they want a puppy to beat somebody else's puppy. So again, that is not the right reason to have a puppy. You want to have a puppy because you want a Dane as a pet primarily. So that is another red flag.
I think this goes for all breeds in general. I don't think it's just Danes as such. All breeders.
Specifically, I wanted to mention this because these are not the right reasons to have a pet, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so it's like
Yeah, I mean, you should have a dog because you want to have a dog, not for the other ulterior motives or reasons for having a dog. Yeah. You have a dog because you like dogs, you love having dogs. That is one of the main reasons why people get into having a dog, even if it's a small place. You want to have a big dog, yeah, fine, have it, but have it for the right reasons.
Have it for the right reasons. Exactly.
Have it for the right reasons, exactly. Gauri, okay, now summer is like there. So like right now it's like I think hot everywhere across India. How do you safeguard a big dog like this in a tropical condition like ours? I mean, what do you have any special things? Because big dogs have the tendency to fall quickly with extreme heat. So how do you safeguard something like that? Because pretty sure not everybody will be able to keep a dog inside AC 24/7. So what do you do with this kind of a situation?
See, India, if you see, there are so many variations in temperature. Extreme summers, sometimes at places there's extreme monsoon. Our winters are easy for Great Danes. I mean, that's the best part of the year for them. In humidity is something that they don't like. Heat is something they don't like, and rain. I would say, from my experience with my Danes, 99% of my Danes did not like water,
Oh,
with the exception of one Dane. So they hate the monsoon.
okay.
So well, there's nothing much that you can do in the monsoons, especially in places where the monsoons are very severe, like we have. Summers, yes, keep them. You have to have them indoors. If not ACs, then at least coolers where it's not humid. In humidity, the coolers don't work.
Good.
Um, Fans, I think that's what you have to do, and make sure the dogs are kept cool. Um, for exercising in summer, make sure you take the dog out early in the morning and then
Early.
late at night. Yeah, don't exercise the dog too much in summer, because obviously you definitely, for Danes, never exercise after they've been fed, because this is a breed that is prone to bloat.
Float. Exactly.
So definitely not, do not exercise your dog after you fed the dog. So early morning and late at night for a small walk is fine when the temperatures are lower. And sometimes they do tend to go off food because of the heat. So more frequency of meals, and then you can feed a higher calorie diet, so that you don't have to feed too much. You can reduce the quantities and make it more frequent. And of course, water should be available at all times. So that goes without saying.
Yeah. Keep them hydrated. During summer, I think that's the best thing that you can do is
Keep them
keep the
hydrated.
dog, keep the
Absolutely.
dog hydrated. Give them a
Absolutely.
lot of. I mean, like I think sometime back we spoke about how to cool down a body of a dog. Buttermilk is something that was somebody suggested. Like we were talking, like yeah, buttermilk.
Definitely, you can get curds. Curds is very good for
Curd,
dogs.
buttermilk. So this is how you basically generally keep the dog safe,
Yes.
cool during temperatures like this, and make sure that they don't have any major issues. Even I think this also goes with dog shows as well. I think you, I mean, I've seen most of these dogs are kept inside an AC car till the time that they need to be shown, and just 5 minutes before the show happens, that they are rushed out of the car, and there's a huge difference that you can see.
Depends on the temperature, inside the AC it's different, obviously, and especially it shows in the south. In the north it's cool, so you don't even need to keep the dogs in the AC. But in the south, suddenly you have the dog in the AC, and suddenly you get the dog out, and
Get
it's
the dog.
short move. So that can be a bit of a shock.
Can
So
you get some? Can you get a dog to get acclimatized to something like that? Like in the sense, can you train the dog to get acclimatized to a certain type of temperature? How is it with a bigger dog like this?
you could, but I don't think that's good for the dog. What you need to do is ensure that the dog is comfortable at all times. So even if you're getting the dog out of the AC, you have certain things, like you have cool coats that you could put on the dog. You have, you spray it with water and make sure the temperature is lowered. Have the dog in the shade as far as possible. So these are things that you can do to make sure the dog is comfortable, because the temperatures, as you know, do go up and are very high, especially in shows in the south. So you have to take special care to make sure your dog is comfortable.
Okay. Okay, to sign off, because we're just running out of time. There's one gentleman, I can't find the question, but there's one gentleman who asked, what was your favorite Great Dane of all time? So, what was your favorite Dane, a particular dog that you owned, or a particular dog that you have seen being shown somewhere else? Which is your favorite Dane of all time?
Well, I would say bred by me. Starman is, actually bred by Fran Lass and me. So that would be, I was a co-breeder on that dog. So he is my favorite dog, my favorite bitch. There are a couple of bitches that I bred that I like very much. One was a bitch called Rave. Then Emmy is the one that's on the cover of the IKG this time. So she's one of my favorites. And then a dog called Dolly that I bred, who's I liked very much. Apart from dogs that I bred, Malta's Eye Candy, which I think is a bitch that I absolutely loved watching her in the US. And then Travis, of course, is bred by Fran Lass, and he's the father of Starman, as well as Indigo Blue, the dog that I had earlier. So for what he's produced and as a dog himself is, I do like that dog very much.
Oh, okay. Uh, Thanks, Gauri. Thank you so much for spending this lovely time with us, valuable time with us. I mean, like, yeah, there is a hell of a lot of questions. I'm telling you, there is a lot of questions that I would like to answer. But since you are the expert in the breed, I would love you to answer some of the questions that are there that has been coming to us, like right from
Oh,
time when the chat started. Most of the
oh,
questions I see are related to color. I see a lot of color related questions. I see a lot of bloodline and how to what is a good bloodline to breed out of, and questions like that. I'm pretty sure that you would be able to. I mean, if you take up all the questions that is there right now, we would like stretch more than 1 hour. But I would love you to answer these questions whenever you
sure.
get the time.
I would be happy to answer, and if they want to on the chat, if I could answer, I'd be happy to answer that. Offline.
Let me see if I can pop up some. As I said, no, there are a lot of questions that are there about color. Let me see if there's anything very specific that we can talk about right now, or not a problem. I mean, in the sense, as I said, like you can always. I mean, in our this will automatically be posted in our wall, and all the comments will be there automatically. So whenever
Okay.
you get the time, if you can just go offline and answer a couple of these questions, I think they want to know a lot more, and we are right at about running out of time as well. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much for joining in. And this was a lovely session that we had with Ms. Gauri, one of our premier chain breeders in India. I mean, like as I said, no, from for a very long time, I've seen Gauri only with chains, nothing else. I don't think she's handled any other dog or trained any other dog that I've actually seen her show in rings other than Great Dane.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming in.
Thanks, thanks, Siddharth, and I thank the Madras Canine Club for this. And it's a great initiative. I think it's wonderful to be able to chat with people like this. And I think
Thank
it's
you so
lovely.
much. Yeah, this is something that we started during the lockdown period, and we will continue because our primary motive was to educate the regular people as such. More than, I
Right.
mean, yes, we have a lot of well-known breeders who are there in the list who are asking questions. But our primary motive was to basically educate people who want to pick up a dog, like let us say a
Right.
Great Dane or a Doberman or something like that. That is one
Yeah.
of our main reasons to why we are doing this, and we will continue to do this. The need of the hour is basically to stay home, stay safe. So I request all of you all to stay home, stay safe.
Oh yeah,
And
absolutely. Especially in these COVID times, it's
that's true.
essential to stay safe and take care of yourself.
That's right. So thank you guys. Thank you so much for joining us today. And we will be back again with another live chat session with another expert. Most probably a good topic, maybe a related topic or a general topic. Not very sure about it. But yes, just keep looking out for our posts on Facebook and Instagram. We will notify you shortly about our next chat and when it will be. Stay tuned. Thank you so much and good evening.
Thanks, Siddharth.